Fire, water, ice, but when the world needed it the most, castform disappeared. Hello everybody, today I'll use another single stage normal Pokemon, but this one is a guilty pleasure of mine. I know castform is not very good in competitive and the Pokemon Company did not show any love to it in a decade or two, but I still love this little ball of clouds. Let's quickly go over the rules. Only use cast form and no items in combat. Can't use the move double team and no cheats or glitches. This one has an asterisk. I'll soon explain why. Before somebody says anything, the thumbnail is not clickbait. Kyogre can only learn Rain Dance and Hail. Groudon only Sunny Day and Sandstorm. Rayquaza is a bit better since it gets a Sunny Day, Rain Dance and Sandstorm, but like any dragon is scared about ice. Castform, on the other hand, can learn all 4 weather moves and synergizes very well with 3 of them. Anyway, after we save the professor, we meet a wild plot twist. Since I have been ranting about weather, I decided to only use Weather Ball and the weather moves. I had to do a bit of cheating to get Weather Ball at level 10, and that's the reason for the asterisk earlier. Let's quickly update the rules and move on. The first fight against May is quite easy. Castform has a 70 across the board, which are very good stats for this point in the game, so one hit is enough to take care of the chicken. The next fight against the first Team Aqua Grunt is pretty much the same. His Puchiena is tanky enough to leave a hit, but with the second Weather Ball we can get rid of it. So far I have used the default normal type version of Weather Ball, but for Roxanne I leveled up to 20 when Castform learns the weather moves. This way I can use Rain Dance to enter the water form, and Weather Ball also becomes water type. Her Geodudes of course get obliterated by it. I might have killed their whole family tree with a single move. Nosepass also dies immediately. That was one of the easiest first gyms ever. Not long after we defeated Roxanne, we have to save Pico. For this fight, I don't bother setting up the weather, since one single normal hit is enough to deal with it. So far, Castform is doing really well, but I'm kinda worried for the endgame, since we have such a limited move pool. Anyway, optional May is also nothing to write home about. I show her some disrespect by staying in normal form, but the weather is not needed. After we defeat her, we have to make our way to Brawly's gym, and for once I'm feeling quite confident. I can change my type so he is not super effective and do a lot of special damage. Most of the time, sun and rain forms are about even unless one of the two is super effective. For some reason, I used the rain one a lot more, so enjoy the sun while it's out. Surprisingly, Makuhita leaves a hit, but does nothing, so after a couple of potions, it's another easy win. 2 gyms down already. We are doing good progress. Next up is more Team Aqua grants, when we have to deliver the submarine components. Like usual, those guys are easy. Once again, I don't bother setting up any kind of weather, since their Pokemons are very frail. One normal weather ball is enough to get rid of those pests. Also, I noticed only now that it does not make contact. It's logical since you are throwing a projectile, but Pokemon doesn't always follow common sense. The next major fight is May 2. Her team is a bit stronger now, and no weather is a silver bullet against her. While I was using Rain Dance, Wingull confuses me, and knowing my luck, I end up hitting myself a couple of times. But eventually I can snap out of it and shoot down the seagull. Wisely, May sends out the Lombre, and a 4 times resist the hit does no damage to her. Rain ends and I take it out with a normal ball. When the combustion comes out, I set up the rain for the last time and defeat it in one hit the next turn. Once we have dealt with May, I spend some time grinding against the trainers near Moville, and once I'm ready, I take on Watson. Since Voltorb has good special defense, I thought normal ball would be better, but with hindsight, I now know that I was very wrong. I should have used Sunny Day against him and then started the sweep, but instead I waited and set up Sun against his second mon. From here it's a simple sweep, since our damage is through the roof for now, and we are also super effective against the Magneton, so nothing can stop us. I was expecting Watson to be harder. I guess I underestimated my damage by a lot. After him, there is the usual fan meetup at Meteor 4 Caves, where we are informed about Maxi, so we have to go stop him to proceed the story. His team is not particularly scary, but I was worried about what Mighty Hyena would do while I was dancing to make it rain. And of course, he goes for sand attack strats. This causes me to miss and take some more sand attacks. Then you can add another example to my theory of accuracy, since I don't miss again and can finish the fight unscathed. Once Maxi is defeated, he runs away since we stopped his plan, and Arch thanks us. But we don't have any time for words, there are more gyms to conquer. Next up is Flannery, and if you have been paying attention so far, you should know she is very easy. I used Rain Dance on turn 1, and from here we can wash away all of her Pokémons. They are all weak to it and generally have low special defense, so it's just another sweep. And soon enough we acquire the 4th badge, halfway there. The next gym leader is our dad, and I have to say he is starting to grow on me. It might be because I'm using many normal types, so I can relate to his situation. The strategy is pretty much the same, just set up rain and then sweep. Weather Ball is kinda crazy if you think about it. After all the multipliers, it has 225 base power, so I don't think that the crit on the slacking matters, but he's too thick to be sure. Wally's uncle gives us Surf, so we can go beat up his niece. With the new HM, we can reach the Weather Institute and drive out the Team Aqua Grants hooking up the scientist. They give us another castform, so now we have to find who's the impostor. Too late for Among Us memes? Anyway, for the May fight, we have a big advantage since it's already raining. Once again, her AI is on point and sends Lombre to the front lines, so I had to change the weather. I should have set up Sun, but instead I used Hail. For Lombre it doesn't really matter since it goes down in one hit anyway, but Combustion is another story. Mostly because I'm weak to both his stabs, so I had to reset the rain. Finally, I can finish the match with one Rainbow. That was a bit convoluted, but it worked out in my favor at the end. Next up is Joyce from Stranger Things, and for her, Hail is extremely good. Ice Weather Ball is either neutral or super effective, so this should be easy. The fight starts off well, since I'm able to one-shot her first 3 Pokémons, but things get a bit weird when she sent out the Pelican. See, the unfortunate aspect of the weather moves is that they only last 5 turns, but in reality it's 4 since it counts the one when you use them. This weakness can be exploited if someone has a way of stalling the weather, and if you remember from the Seedot video, Pelipper sure loves to use Protect. Anyway, Eventually, I can finish him and the Altaria dies from hypothermia. This gym fight was a bit of a clown fiesta, but we got through with no resets, so I can't really complain. Next, we took a small detour to grab the magma emblem from Mount Fire, and since we are also here, we can do the last May fight, so that we don't have to worry about her anymore in this video. Hail is still the best weather for her, or at least it is for most of her team. I don't bother changing to rain for the Compasken, so he resists Hail Ball and then sets up, but I can finish him next turn. Next, she sends out Pelipper, and like the previous one, it stalls me a little so that the hail ends, but I can just set it back up and use a weather ball to remove it from the game. Her last Pokemon is Ludicolo, and it is neutral to ice, so I use a couple more weather balls to finish the fight. Unfortunately, the fights from here to the end of the game are going to be kinda long since I have to set up weather multiple times. Anyway, once we arrive at Groudon, Maxi wakes it up with the wrong orb, so the legendary flees and the Team Magma leader attacks us. This time, Mightyena uses Scary Face while I set up, but then he outspeeds and confuses me with Swagger. That's not great knowing my luck, and in fact I hit myself a bit, but not too much, so it doesn't take long to get through and finish the hyena. Crobat is next and deals some damage, but I can finish him and the camera up easily, so it wasn't that bad. The next big fight is against Tate and Liza. I'm not worried about this one, since most of their team is weak to water, so I can use Rain Dance and then sweep with Rain Ball. I'm a bit surprised that even if castform has a medium fast growth rate, I'm kinda low level compared to usual. Claydol spams Earthquake, but can't do much damage. I also have a citrus berry to recover some HP, so there is no risk of going down. After a few more turns, I'm able to finish the fight, and I didn't even have to reset the rain since they only have 4 Pokemon. Immediately after the gym, we have to deal with Team Magma for the last time. At least we have Steven to help us out. I forgot to heal in between the two fights, so I have very few PPs for Weather Ball. The fight starts well, since Mightyena focuses on Metang, so I'm free to spam Weather Ball, and of course at this point nothing can leave a hit, so I can quickly cut through most of their team. My bad luck seems to be contagious, like the cold I have at the moment. That's why my voice is even more nasally than usual. And the Metang can't stop hitting itself. So between that, a hit from a Camerupt, and later Mightyena, it gets very low. This is about the point when I ran out of Weather Ball PPs, so I'm quite unsure what to do next. I just used Hail, since the chip will eventually take the Golbat out. Metang ultimately goes down to a bite, and the Skarmory that comes out after is quite useless. Sure, it finishes off the Golbat, but it would have died from Hail anyway that turn. Whatever, at least it's over. Once we get the Dive HM, we have to reach the next legendary in an underwater cave. Here we meet the leader of Team Aqua that fights us for the last time. I'm not sure why I used the ice form, since I'm pretty confident that both Rain and Sun would have been better, but it doesn't really matter. We take some damage from his Pokemons since we are slowed, but the main problem is the Sharpedo. He confuses me with a Swagger, and you guessed it, I hit myself a bunch of times, so much so that I thought I would actually lose for the first time in this run. Thankfully, I can eventually snap out and defeat the Sharpedo, but that was way too close for comfort. Once the red orb activates and enrages Kyogre, the usual story beats happen, with the weather legendaries wreaking havoc across the region. I'm going to skip over most of this stuff since it's always the same until we reach the cutscene where Rayquaza stops the two legendaries. I don't need to pad out the video, but it's too good to skip. After we saved the world, it's time for the last gym. Juan is a bit tricky since all of my weathers are not very good against him. I decided to go for rain since it's a bit better than sun because this way I will be neutral against the Whiscash and probably the Celio too because of thick fat. The Not Seal survives a hit but thankfully does not paralyze me. I have to spend some more time against it because of potions. I did not want to set the weather yet, so I had to use some normal balls to take out the Kronaast, but they do much less damage than expected. Therefore, I lose a lot more HP than I would like, but eventually I can reach his last Pokemon. For Kindra, I use Hail and then Ice Ball. The chip from the Hail, unfortunately, is not quite enough to finish the Seahorse, but I can close the deal the next turn. To be honest, Juan went better than expected. He was the gym leader I was most worried about. Up next is Wally in the Victory Road, and his team is quite diverse, so I think I'll have to switch between weathers a few times. I misclick and use rain, but fix it next turn with hail. From here, Weather Ball is enough to take out the Altaria, since it's 4 times super effective, but it is also enough for the Del Captive. Magneton of course resisted, so I should have used Sunny Day, since fire is good against the rest of his team, but instead we do the usual song and dance of potions. Eventually I can finish him with a normal ball when the hail runs out. Don't ask me why I used hail again, maybe because it was stormy outside while I was playing. Anyway, the Gardevoir leaves a hit thanks to his massive special defense, but as usual wastes time with a future sight. Once again, we have to deal with some full restores, but eventually he stops and we can finish the match. Time to start the league. The first member is Sidney. There is no weather that really destroys him, and the first turn of the match is probably the most important one. I used Hail and my Tiena just damages me, which is very good for me. Looking back at it, Sun would have been better, but I warned you that it would not come up much. I can proceed to one-shot the next few Pokemons until Hail expires, and once again I'm running out of Weather Ball PPs since I forgot to heal before entering. At this point, it would have been a good idea to set up another weather, but no, I just had to use normal ball before remembering it is bad. Thankfully, it doesn't matter, and we can finish the fight soon after. The next member is Pheobe, and she might be the easiest one, since I know I can set up safely and none of her Pokémon resist me. So after we set up the rain, the sweep can start. If you are still here, what's your opinion on castform? Do you love it, list it, or hate it, or something in between? Let me know in the comments. Personally, I would really like more forms, and maybe it could synergize with the terrains too, since they have been quite common in the last few generations. I have to reset the terrain for her ace like usual, since she has 5 Pokemons, but it was a breeze. Up next is Glacia, and she turned out to be harder than I expected. At the start, I waited for her to use Hail so I could change it next turn. I used the Sun form for this fight, but I forgot that some of her Pokémons have the Thick Fat ability, which cuts in half my fire damage. This way, they survive and can deal good damage back to me. I don't think I could have done anything different though, since Hail is even worse, and Rain I think would give about the same results, since it resisted. The second Celio kinda trolls me, so I have to set up Sun multiple times, especially because it too leaves a hit, so this takes a while. At this point, the wide move pool on the right is starting to look very tempting, but I said I would do it with only Weather Ball, so I will stick to those words. Breaking them would also ruin the point of the video, and there are only 2 fights left. What could go wrong? Meanwhile, the clown fiesta keeps going on in the background as we keep switching between Hail and Sun. Eventually, I can defeat the Celio and the Glail that comes out after. That fight was a complete mess. Let's hope that Drake does a bit better. Since all of his Pokémons are Dragon type, I can use the Hail to turn Weather Ball into an Ice move, and mostly sweep them. I say mostly because Kingdra is likely going to leave a hit. There is not much to say. Thanks to my level, I am faster than all of them, so I can take them out before they do anything. And after a few more long turns, because of the hail animation, it runs out, but we also reached the kingdom. So we just have to reset the hail and spam weather ball. As I predicted earlier, it leaves a hit, but the hail comes in clutch and finishes it off. There is only the champion left, but unfortunately he is a big brick wall, and I pulled a source kit by smashing my head against it multiple times. I was hoping that my secret trump card would save me, but Sandstorm is not enough. If I use it, castform does not change types, but Weather Ball does, and becomes a 100 base power rock move, which is neutral on most of his team. But since they are very tanky, it is not enough to one-shot them, and eventually I get screwed over. After almost 60 attempts, I get a case of extremely good luck. I took advantage of Wolverine's Rain, but had to switch to Sun for Ludicolo. That crit did not matter, by the way. Then, for the Tentacruel, I have to soften him up, and then switch weather again to Sand, since one Rock Ball would put him in a potion range. The berry saves me from a toxic death, and we are barely halfway through his team. Now for the lucky part. Whiscash resists rock, but often sets up with amnesia, so all my moves are kinda weak. Thankfully, this time I get a crit with Weather Ball to one-shot this dumb fish. Gyarados is also a big problem since it leaves a hail ball and it goes into potion range. So now Wallace is going to spam full restores on it. This goes on for a while until the hail ends. Here I tried using Sandstorm, hoping that a super effective hit would be enough, but because of the Intimidate and the non-stab, it isn't. Until I get another crit to put the Sea Dragon underwater. The fight is not over. His strongest Pokemon comes out, and I'm not in a great spot since Milotic takes very little damage from my moves. But by some miracle, I get the fourth crit of the fight. To, I want to say, earn the win, but let's be honest, I didn't. This Wallace fight was a shame. I was having so much fun before it, but at least it's over. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, etc. Also, leave a comment. I will respond to all of them as soon as possible. See you next week. Bye.